ladies and gentlemen, it's the Noobtoob Modcast featuring Jam Enslaver, Locke, and Sunflower.
Hello listeners and welcome to episode 56 of the BAFTA-winning Noobtoob Modcast. Today is Sunday, February 15th, 2009, and I'm Jam Enslaver. Joining me as always are my two co-hosts, the lovely Cupid Locke.
I'm going to marry a lighthouse keeper and keep him company.
And the embarrassing strippogram Sunflower 4000.
Hello, my name is Sunflower.
The last thing we tried, Jam, was the HAWX demo, so we can kind of segue into
you
that.
can be my wingman anytime.
That's
Sweet
right.
demo of HAWX.
Oh, check out the sweet demo of HAWX, you mofos. High altitude wingman exploration or extreme or something.
Extreme.
Where they drink Mountain Dew. No, it's an arcade
Game?
flying game. Much like Ace Combat. That's it's got a lot of similarities to that. But Jam, why don't you go into what it does as a
What
game?
makes this game sweet?
Yeah, what makes this game what makes it so sweet?
Well, going into the game I had pretty low expectations because although I do really like arcade flying games like Crimson Skies and like Rogue Squadron, those have an interesting universe that is like a hook for me. And they also very much rely on things like machine guns or turbo lasers where you really have to get up close and personal with your enemies and shoot the hell out of them before they'll die. Whereas in modern combat arcade games, generally it's missile lock, press button, watch the missile go away, reticule disappears, you've killed the enemy. And there is a certain degree of that in HAWX as well, but it does a couple of things that make the combat much more interesting. The biggest of which is that you can turn off your like flight computer limiter thing into off mode, as the game wonderfully puts it, which completely changes the dynamic of the game. Because in on mode, the game looks and plays pretty much as you'd expect. You've got your aircraft takes up like the bottom half of the screen, and your camera is pretty much on the top of the tail fin, that sort of thing. And you control it like a normal plane. You roll and you pull back on the control stick to turn and that sort of stuff. Whereas if you turn the limiter off and you go into off mode, that kind of changes. The camera switches so that it's focusing, or more or less focusing on your target. It zooms way out so that your plane is much, much smaller on the screen.
It's like a cinematic
and the controls
camera.
Yeah, exactly. It's like a cinematic camera. And the controls simplify a bit, so rather than having to roll and pull back to turn, you just press sideways on the control stick and your plane will automatically turn in that direction. So it simplifies it a lot more. It makes it a lot easier to turn sharply and keep an eye on where the enemy are. And it also makes it feel like a much more dynamic game, and it's actually a lot more fun than previously. The other thing that's cool about it is that you also get this thing called the ERS, where you can press a little button occasionally.
Ears?
And the game
Ears. No,
I don't know what that stands for either.
Ears.
And you can, basically, if you press this thing, the game helps you and sets up a flight path which allows you to get onto the tail of aircraft that you are targeting, or set up a good targeting run on ground targets and that
or
sort
dodge
of
a
thing.
missile.
Dodge a missile.
So you're also shooting ground targets.
Yes.
You are shooting ground targets as well, and there are a lot of ground targets, especially in the demo, where there's stuff going on all over the place, and it's just insane. It's like, oh my god, what targets do I go for?
Yeah,
Kill whatever you can get your hands on.
It's definitely action-filled.
Yeah, that's true. And it was actually really cool that you can play up to 4 players in co-op, and when Locke and I were playing, it was really fun. A, because co-op is fun in anything. B, because we could say, okay, you go after the bombers, I'll take care of the ground targets, which helped to make a bit of sense out of the chaos that was happening around us. And C, because we got to take the piss out of the ridiculous voice acting.
Oh, it's so
the presentation,
ridiculous.
the presentation in this game, the game itself looks nice, and the actual levels are based on satellite photography, and for the most part they look pretty good.
But they put all the time and effort definitely into the plane models, which is good. But just those,
The actual game looks really nice. It has some cool effects, like when you go out, if you stall the plane, your plane will literally plummet out of the sky because you've lost the thing, and that's actually really scary when that happens.
Yeah.
It's like, oh shit, get the nose down, throttle up, and then slowly pull back to get yourself out of the climb, and then you'll get that wonderful little cloud effect as you go supersonic, and you push through the nose cone of air that you have.
Yes.
So that's really cool.
Yeah, you work at the biz, though. You work in that kind of business.
To a certain degree.
I knew what he was talking about.
Yeah.
I guess I fell asleep in class.
Well,
So I don't know. Locke, what did you think of it? I thought it felt pretty good. It's not a brilliant, amazing game, but it's definitely worth a rental at some point, especially if you have someone else to play it with.
Yeah, co-op is going to be great. I'm a big fan of the Ace Combat games on the PS2. I played through those, and this felt a lot like that. And when you're doing that with a buddy, it's a lot of fun. I also noticed, Jam, there was experience. So nowadays, that's the new thing. When you have experience, you're always unlocking. It gives you some motivation. And I noticed I gained a level through that first mission, and it unlocked a new plane for me. So that definitely has some draw to it. In terms of the gameplay, I really what is it called? The on and off mode? What do we call it? Infinite mode?
It's called on and off mode. I call it limited and unlimited because that sounds so much less stupid.
Way better. So unlimited mode, when you're outside in the cinematic camera, I thought that was a really cool addition. Being able to chase down your target in a cinematic way, and you have it's not awkward at all. At the first, it takes a little bit to get used to. Trying to control and trying to find out how to lock on and where to shoot.
I was having a little bit of trouble with it because not just because of the fact that it's a slightly different way from controlling your plane, but also because your plane's so small on the screen. Occasionally, you'll overturn because you're like, I need to get a lock on this guy. And you'll be looking at the target reticule rather than at your plane, and your plane will just turn straight through, and you'll lose the lock.
Yes,
which is a bit annoying. It's a bit hard to keep tabs on what your plane is actually doing. You'll stall accidentally a lot through the mode, so it's something you have to get used to.
So between that, the unlimited mode or the off mode, and the ERS, I was switching between both when I was in dogfights, and I'd go into on mode, so the first person whatever mode, and I'd go to ERS to try and chase down my target, and then once I did chase him down, I'd go into off mode, and I'd be able to lock on and shoot him down that way, and that was going between those two was pretty smooth. It's not janky at all, and the transition is there, and those two elements set it apart from other flying games, which is really neat.
Yeah.
And I really enjoyed that part of it, as well as the the actual dogfighting, being able to drift. So while you're turning and you hit the brakes, it basically puts the equivalent of a flying fishtail. So your plane will turn, and Jam, maybe you can explain it better, but you can basically turn on a dime and then chase after your target. Doing those really made you feel awesome. You really felt like you were this fighter pilot, knows what he's doing, and it made for some challenging dogfights. I know the second part of the mission there's some pretty good, the aces, as they call them, the enemy aces.
The aces that come in right at the end, they are tough. I still haven't shot one of them despite demo twice.
Yeah,
but you managed
really
to get
hard.
The hang of it, which is good.
But between that and the stalling and the drifting and the in and out, or the off and on mode and the ERS, this is a great flying game. It's good. It's good.
It's surprisingly good, isn't it? I was considering that I had really low expectations. I think this is definitely will be worth picking up when it's cheaper a bit.
Yeah, I'm not
considering the missions are probably going to be variations on the same thing. Here's a whole bunch of people flying, that sort of thing. But I think it might be worth picking up later on.
Is this something that you'd be interested in? Joining our little wingman squad?
It doesn't sound like it would be, but I'm definitely going to try it now.
Nice. Yeah, definitely go try the demo. We'd love to hear your thoughts, because, I would, like Jam said, I was pleasantly surprised. I